what it is. Brad Lea back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs today in the studio, folks. As always, I got a real treat for you, but today it's a double.
That's
double
right.
treat, folks. Mike Martin and Sean Richey.
Hello,
I'm like struggling with my eyes, but I don't want to have to put on my readers. Yep, Mike Martin and Sean Richey.
That's
folks,
great.
if you guys don't know who these guys are, you can look them up at ProPilot Playbook. So, and by the way, obviously, they're seasoned corporate pilots with over 25 years in aviation industry, background spanning private jet, charter companies, individual jet owners, corporate fleets, and ultimately, you guys, well, you do a number of things.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got spas and you're entrepreneurs.
Yep.
But in reality, you're also corporate pilots, and now you're teaching people how to basically become a pilot at a fraction of the time and cost it takes by going traditional routes.
Yeah,
Totally.
Is it a route or is it a route?
Yeah, you know what? Pilots, I think, use route a lot.
Yeah.
En route, whatever. And yeah.
It's a journey, man, and it's a great journey. I mean, it's an exciting business to get in, and that's why we started this.
The entrepreneur thing, though, the pilots being entrepreneur, that's not a new concept. I don't know how many of you have been to the Smithsonian up in Washington, the actual Wright B flyer, the first aircraft ever, Wright brothers, Dayton, Ohio. When you start looking at these guys' history, these guys were entrepreneurs too, as well. I mean, they owned a bicycle shop, made bikes.
Orville and Wilbur?
That's correct. And I truly believe these two guys built this airplane and flew it. And you look at everything, they probably thought, oh man, if we're the first people to fly an airplane, we're going to sell a ton of bicycles. Like that's all they were worried about was business stuff. They were serial entrepreneurs.
Yes, they were, as a matter of fact.
Yep.
So being pilots for 25 years, at some point in time, you were just putting on the captain shirts and going and flying someone from here to there, here to there, here to there. A lot of those jets, because sometimes I'll fly somewhere and fly right back. Are these routes that they take just back and forth?
You're talking about airline travel?
Yeah, like let's say United Airlines from Vegas to, let's say, Nashville. You fly, and then it's like people get off the plane, and then turns out that's the plane that's flying right back to Vegas.
Sometimes. That's the airlines, they'll do all kinds of stuff. That aircraft may not come right back to Vegas. That's a pretty long route. Some of the guys flying the RJs, the little 57 or 70 seat, they may do 3 or 4 stops, do an overnight, then maybe do those a different 2 or 3 stops before they get back to their base. It's all over the place. Different airlines do that different, depending on where you're entering or exiting the hub and spoke system. They call it.
We came in yesterday from Miami, and our plane was delayed, and the crew was coming in from Ecuador. So when Ecuador, Miami, Vegas, it's just
now because you're pilots, do you get what do you call deadhead rates?
Jump seat.
Non-revenue.
So that's an airline pilot thing. So airline pilots do get that. We're corporate pilots, so we don't sit in the actual cockpit. But
so that's more of like an employee benefit. What a corporate pilot gets is a similar benefit. Oftentimes is, like I got one owner. I manage 17 aircraft. I got one guy he'll let me take the jet home. Instead of typically we'll leave the jet wherever they're at, we'll airline because that's way cheaper. Well, if it's, Thanksgiving's coming up or something, Sean, just take the jet home. Don't mess with the airlines. Or like coming up in.
But you're the one flying it?
Yes. Yeah.
That's like, just drive the car to the garage.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. But only it's 2 hours across the country burning thousands of, But in 2 weeks, he just invited, he's going up to Napa for a week, and he told me, just bring your wife on the jet. She can come with us. So, I mean, that's a benefit, an airline guy.
Well, to me, that's just a cool dude.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude. If you got a jet and you're my pilot,
right?
I'm not going to say your wife's not allowed. Although I'm sure there are some people like that.
Well, it depends on the mission. I mean, if they're doing hardcore business or something in the back of the airplane, they may not want, somebody.
Yeah, but he's going to Napa for the holidays.
Right.
Sounds like a cool dude. Says, hey, bring the wife.
Yeah, he is. He's an interesting guy.
Yeah, you see some amazing places, man, because we get to fly for guys like you, man. And we get to go to all the best places at all the best times.
What kind of bird do you fly?
I'm all over the place. I'm my.
Don't you have to be rated?
Yeah, every jet. That's a huge thing. A lot of general public doesn't understand. For every jet you're flying, there's a specific. You could call it a license just for that jet. Mm-hmm. It's actually called a rating.
So if I get a G550, I got to have pilots that have G550 ratings.
Right.
And then I say, hey, I'm going to trade this in on a 650.
Yep.
Isn't it just one more button?
Maybe sometimes, but the FAA considers these machines are so complex. There's so many systems, and when you start jumping around to different manufacturers, the systems change, and you got to be certified just on that machine.
Okay, so for all my rich listeners, because I have some wealthy people listening to the show, and I want a jet.
Yeah.
Number one, what's the smartest financially jet to buy?
Ooh, it depends on where you go and what
just around the country.
Yeah. So if you want just so they're kind of breaking into categories. They have light jets, medium-sized jets, and then large cabin. A lot of the large cabin are for heavy international training. They're very expensive. What you would want, what you probably wouldn't want, if you're just doing heavy.
Why would I not want it?
Well, if you're just flying within the continuous United States, that'd be kind of overkill. I mean, everybody wants a huge jet, but cost. Yeah.
What's the difference between continuous and contiguous?
I don't know.
Well, because I've heard the word contiguous.
Contiguous. Well, they're referring to. I hear it when somebody's talking about the U.S. You know, the state, the contiguous United States doesn't include Hawaii or Alaska. So
no oceans, basically.
Right. Exactly. But that question, Brad, it would be, you come into me and that's the question you have for me. I got 5 or 6 questions before we even start, how much are you flying? Where are you flying? How many people are you taking with you? There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes in it. Yeah, you may want the Gulfstream for the flex and the pulling up on the ramp, but the Gulfstream's pretty much going to hold the same amount of people as the little jet that's going to cost you a fraction of the money. And if your mission is not just to look good sitting on the ramp, but just get your crap done and fly around, you don't need the Gulfstream if you're staying within the U.S. There's ways to save.
I would still want a Gulfstream. It would just
everybody wants one of those.
Well, no, but there's smaller Gulfstreams.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Like
absolutely.
when Grant first got his plane.
Oh yeah, he had a G200.
Yep.
That's right, and it was fine.
Yeah, that's
great. We went from coast to coast in that thing. And it was fine. It was cool, actually, and it was plenty big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got that picture of his book on it. He's sitting on top of it on one of his books, man.
Yeah. Then he went to the 550. I think now he's at the 650.
That's Mac
ER.
Yep.
Which again, to me, for just as family, that 200 would have been just dandy for me. Mm-hmm. Now, for ego, I take the 650.
yeah.
650 news, $70 million. 200, those.
Used 70 million?
Oh, no, new 70 million.
Oh, new.
Yeah. Used probably 40,
So if I'm just a dude doing well, obviously, there's a range, but I just want to, fly private in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Should I charter? Should I buy?
That's actually a great question. So a lot of people say, I just charter because, I don't want to deal with the pilots and the maintenance and all that kind of stuff. And there is a lot to that. And if you're only flying, like, say, you and your wife want to you don't have a real business need, let's say, you just want to take pleasure trips. You want to go to Cairo, rent that Vegas Dave house. You want to go, to Nashville a couple times a year and all that. It is more cost effective for you to just rent because you got all these really heavy fixed costs, right. Now if you want to do a business, like say you're constantly traveling, like Grant, he's looking at real estate properties, he's doing these engagements. If you're flying 150 hours a year or more, then the ownership starts to make a lot more sense.
Right.
Now there are people that just have a lot of money and they don't fly a lot, but they want their own plane. There's other various reasons to own your own airplane, because it is better than charter. The pilots know you, you know the equipment. You can leave all your stuff on the plane. You know, it's
but people don't understand. Like, let's say I find a killer deal. I get a G450,
Yep.
which is probably what I would want.
Mm-hmm.
I want a G450 just for my family. No real business, but I'm sure I'd use it for some business. You can put 15, 20, well, you can put 10 comfortably on a G450.
Yeah, there's different options from the factory with the cabin.
Yeah, so the ones I've ridden in, I'm like, dude, this is all I need, and it's smooth, and it's a Gulfstream, and it's got the big windows, and it's cool as shit. And I'm thinking, man, this is all I need. Now you can buy one from 1922 for like $3 million, and you can buy one from 2022 for $30 million.
Yeah.
What's the like? You don't want to be older than a such and such. Like, is there any danger flying the old ones? Because they seem like they're just fine.
Maintenance.
Well, and the costs are gonna go up. Those engines aren't as efficient. Things are gonna be possibly, needing replaced more. The new aircraft. The other thing is with the new aircraft, there's tax benefits involved depending on exactly what the use.
Certain year or newer.
Going newer, there's tax benefits, and it comes out of the factory with all kinds of warranties and whatnot. Like one of the guys, I take care of his airplane. He just bought a brand new I just picked it up from the factory last month. He's not going to have to open his wallet for any maintenance bills for about 3 years.
Which could save him millions.
Possibly if you got big stuff going on. But those older Gulfstreams, there's all kinds if you get the wrong one. I mean, you get into those hush kits and stuff, the engines are too loud. So going into certain places, you can't even take them in there after a certain time of night unless you have certain, modifications done to the engines. That
there's all kinds of maintenance to intervals, and as they get older, I mean, some of these, parts start breaking on those planes, dude. One part could be, 50, 60 grand.
Then I'll just tell the Richies to get a hold of you if they're interested in buying a plane. Apparently there's no answer.
Yeah, it would be, there's tons of different airplanes that all meet your needs. So it'd be, where are you going, where your house is at, how many people do you have, what's your budget, and then we would help you kind of decide on what you want.
Right.
It is
but you guys do help people buy private planes.
Yes, it's one of the things we
take care of fleets. So the more successful listeners, if you're interested in a plane or you have a plane and you want to like get some dialed in actual. Because, dude, your ProPilot playbook is for believe it or not Richie's. Well, Richie's too, I guess. Yeah. Whoever wants to be a pilot.
Keep messing me up with that because my last name is Richie.
Well, Richie's to me are like people with money. They're Richies.
I get it.
Yeah, that's not our core product, but we do consulting, and guys like to hire us and gals for what you're talking about, because we don't have skin in the game. They pay us a flat fee to help them buy a plane. A lot of times you got a broker that's trying to sell you something, and they're trying to upsell you because they're working off percentages, or maybe
sell you something you don't need so they can make a bigger commission.
Right. Mm-hmm. Or maybe your pilot's giving you advice and he just wants to fly a certain plane because it's cool.
Happens too.
Well, that's right.
Back to it.
But just for the record,
may not be the thing, though. You're right. One of the things that happens in that conversation is we start looking at, well, wait, you're only talking about, so everything you just listed, you're only going to fly 75, 80 hours a year. Well, then maybe we don't need to be looking at buying an airplane. Let's look at fractional ownership, which is owning a piece of an airplane, maybe with 3 or 4 other people. Now you own a quarter of it. Now you're splitting all the costs 4 ways.
I don't like that idea.
But there's also the jet card thing. It's a modification on the
I don't mind
charter.
that idea.
Yeah. So you buy they call it a card, but basically you're buying a block of time of 10, 25 hours.
You're prepaying flight hours.
Prepaid flight hours. And I
don't mind that idea.
Well, there's until maybe some of the back end of what's going on.
But like my buddy has a G550. Mm-hmm. And I called him one time and I said, hey, what are you doing with the bird this weekend? So I ended up flying it, and I know because he told me before it doesn't cost him as much as they charge me. Well, because he put it into some program, and now he doesn't have the right to let me pay cost unless I'm an owner because of the program.
Charter managed.
Yeah. So like, why don't I buy a plane So when I want it, it's there, but I put it in a program and it pays the bills for me.
Yeah, that's a very good situation. Yeah, that's what a lot of people want, the benefits of ownership, but they don't fly enough hours to actually justify owning their own plane. So what they'll do is they'll reserve it when they want to use it, and then they'll rent it to other people to help offset their costs. You can't really make all your money back.
They're going to sell it to you, this idea.
Yeah.
This machine's going to be making you all this money, and it's at least going to pay for itself.
They almost got me once like that.
Well, so it's better than just letting it sit, but it's definitely not some type of cash cow thing to. I'm just going to buy a bunch of airplanes and charter them out.
It'd be like if you bought a house in Miami, for you and your wife to enjoy, but you're like, I don't want to live there. I just want a vacation. So I'm going to rent it out, for some of the time when I'm not there, but I'm going to use it on New Year's and Christmas and all the best times. But then I want to rent it during all the crappy times like Miami in August, and then I'm gonna use that money to pay for the whole house. Well, it ain't gonna pay for the whole house because you're using it during all the good times,
the peak times.
But it will help. It will help you offset some of your costs.
So if I'm a rich dude, would I call you and you walk me through the best and smartest way?
Yep.
In that
That's one of the things we do, yeah.
And by the way, guys, ProPilotPlaybook.com is their podcast. If you look it up, they got a podcast, but that podcast is mainly talking to pilots.
Yeah.
So the only reason I'm setting it up because I like my listeners to know who you are, what you do, in case they need help. Then we're going to get into how'd you get there and whatnot, and maybe some of your story will help them figure some shit out they're listening to. But you guys do a bunch of things, so it's difficult. Why? Well, because dude, we were mentioning earlier, you'll help people buy jets and find killer deals and not get screwed.
Yes.
So for all the Richies that are thinking about it or could possibly, you'd call them so you don't get screwed in the freaking aviation industry because there's a lot of screwing going on.
That's perfect. Anytime there's smoke, man, that much money, there's shenanigans going on.
Dude, and I can tell you, I've been involved, and I'm telling you, they almost got me a couple times. Not like they were evil, but they were telling me to go one way because they wanted commission.
Sure. And it's highly technical stuff.
Well, I have a billionaire that's upstairs, and I talked to him, and he said, don't do it. And otherwise, I was about to. So again, he don't have any commission coming. That's why he told me the truth. You guys, talking to you in the short time that I have, you guys seem very trustworthy for some reason.
He said he upstairs was telling you, don't buy an airplane. Don't. Okay.
He said, dude, I've owned a bunch of them. You don't want them. He said, it's easier just to charter them. He said, trust me, Brad, you don't want to own them. I've owned them all, and I wish I'd have just chartered them. Plus, he knows that I don't fly that much. So he already knows I'm not on the plane every 5 seconds.
Right.
But even if I was, I'd probably, still want to know, hey, what should I do? And then at some point, someone that knows, like you guys, would say, okay, you're better off to own it.
There is a line that, that you'll cross but you're throwing your money away if you don't purchase.
Right now I know I'm charter for sure. And sometimes I don't even charter, dude. When I go to Nashville, I bet you half the time I go Southwest.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's cheap as shit. I like Southwest. I think they're funny when they get on the microphone and like, I don't mind Southwest. It's the weirdest thing. I think everybody's first class on Southwest. So Southwest should sponsor the show or sponsor me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was just going to ask, they secretly got a logo in the
But sometimes when I'm going with the whole family, baby strollers, 2 dogs and a knapsack, I go, look, and I charter one.
That's when it really shines.
Yes. But it also is like, seriously, bro? Like that much money?
I know. But when you're rolling big dollars, and which you will be, I mean, you already are, but as your career progresses, I mean, the ability to have your own plane, you can leave all your own stuff on it, your own guys that you hand selected, you interview me and Sean, we hire you, we're on every trip. We know everything about you. We know everything about
Can you guys carry guns?
Well, we can, your guy. Yeah, you can bring them.
I know, but I'd want my pilots to get off the plane with me, and now they're my security.
Yeah. So
then when I'm safe and where I'm going, well, now go find me some real estate deals like Grant did with Captain Ryan.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Dude, he was a pilot that wanted to get into real estate, so met Grant, so decided that, and now, dude, he can say he's a pilot. He's more of a real estate dude now.
He is. He's going to be a guest on our podcast. We're working on that.
Yeah.
Actually.
Well, again, I mean, like, dude, you can do a lot being a pilot, which is the other thing that you do. So you can help the Richeys find jets.
Yep.
But in reality, what you're most excited about is helping people become pilots, get into the aviation business.
Yeah. Our core product is called the ProPilot Playbook, and we developed it. It's a training course to help people break into the industry. So if you Google how to become a pilot, you just get flight schools and everything. There's no real direction. Ours is not. We don't teach you how to fly a plane. We teach you how to become a pilot, how to select a flight school, how to not get ripped off, the pitfalls. Kind of like your book, The Hard Way. You know, we've done it all. We've worked in all the best, all the best and worst operations, and we share all that with all our knowledge. You know, so you don't make the mistakes that we make, and it can save tons of money. But the exciting thing is
time.
Yeah, time.
You just willy-nilly walk into your local airport saying, "Hey, I want to learn to fly. I want to be a pilot." I mean, this wouldn't be true for every one of them, but there's a good chance that they can just be taking you for a ride. You know, I mean, if you just go that route without any knowledge, and by the way, the flight instructor at that flight school who may be leading you down this path needs what we're saying too. They also need our product. It's not just
the flight instructor.
Yeah. I mean, so
basically,
flight instructors, that's the first rung on the ladder. That's the first job as a professional pilot you get paid at. As soon as you get all your certificates and ratings, you immediately turn around and you start teaching.
These are in small planes.
Yeah, small little planes.
This is part of what you're teaching. Like that's a technique or hack nobody knows about.
No, that's actually the way the industry's built.
He's just saying the guy that's going to give you advice in the airport is a flight instructor that's just starting out. We've been in the business forever, and he needs our advice too. You know?
Yeah, but see, I don't like that. You telling me that I'm going to this flight school and I'm learning from someone who just passed?
Yeah.
Well, remember, I know. Well,
the
Brad,
least experienced teach.
Exactly. And I've said this for years. I never really learned how to be a pilot until I had to teach somebody how to be a pilot, because every night you're driving home from the airport. Shit, did I say that right? You're pulling out the books. Okay. Yeah, that was good. But, that really does, wonders for somebody's education when you got to turn around and teach it to somebody.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of people listening that, make decent money, and a lot of people listening probably don't make much at all. How much money can somebody make getting into the aviation business?
Well, it's not just the money. The cool thing about being a pilot is you have a lot of time off. You're at the upper tier of, you make more money than the average American. It's a nice salary, and a pilot typically flies about 12 days a month. So you have a lot of time off.
Are you talking about commercial airlines?
Yeah, an airline pilot.
Don't you have to fly a while before you get that job?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So where would you start? I get my license. Now where do I go?
Yeah. So
I'm not going to United Airlines.
I'm glad you asked that, because this is something I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
We spoke about this. Most people think a pilot, it's one license, and we don't even call it technically a license in our world. The FAA calls them certificates, and then you can have ratings added. So there's a slew of certificates, an echelon of certificates, and then there's ratings you can add on to each one of those certificates, like the instrument rating. Yes, right. And that instrument rating, that could be applied to a commercial pilot's license, a commercial pilot certificate, a private pilot certificate. And then there's, like a multi-engine rating, or we're talking about there's the G550 type rating. That's the license just for that jet.
Because when Grant got the 550, Ryan had to go to some school.
Yeah, you got to go back to school.
And Grant had to pay for that, and that's like $100,000 to train your pilot.
Just for that one thing.
And we'll get into that in a minute.
But it's not just one license, is my point. It's a whole slew of certificates and ratings in order to get to that airline job. And you have to have a minimum number of flights. If 121 Airlines, you need to have 1,500 hours. So that's what I was saying. You just walk into your flight school willy-nilly and say, I want to be a pilot. And they just lead you down this path that you could spend years and thousands of dollars beyond what you should be doing.
But if I went to you guys and you guys trained me, how fast can I be a pilot?
We would help you find a school that could do accelerated training, because you learn more when you train every day. The big leagues have been doing this this forever. When they sent, Captain Ryan to Gulfstream school, he doesn't fly once a week. They fly 8 hours. They're like in an intensive training program that's 6 or 7 days a week, and they're learning all day. They're in the classrooms, they're in the simulators back to back. If you train like that very seriously in the beginning of your training, like when you're working on your private instrument commercial, you'll get done way faster and you'll retain more. So
what does it take?
And because you're being charged by the hour.
I don't know. What does it take? Month? Week? Year?
3 months would be to get all of your ratings up until flight instructor would be extremely fast. That's some people do that. 6 months would be very good clips.
Yeah, 6 to 8 months would be.
What's it take a normal person that doesn't know your shit?
Three
years. Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah, something like
that. So you're cutting people from 3 years to 6 months.
Yeah. If you follow the right and those 2 or 3 year
teaching
programs,
people how they can do that themselves.
Yeah.
We're not teaching
we don't teach. We just tell you where to go.
Well, dude, that's teaching. You're teaching me how to get through the red tape crap easier,
Sure.
and you're advising me that I don't need to waste time with that I normally would have.
I just meant that we're not giving them the flight instruction, even though we're both flight instructors. But we're not out there in the airplane with them teaching. No, give me a left turn. We're not doing that.
Yeah, good clarity point. You're not teaching them how. You're not teaching them the craft of flying.
Teaching them how to find the guy to tell them how to make. You're
like a good mentor.
Yeah, that's exactly
what we're trying to do.
So our products that we sell, the main one is the course, which is.
And by the way, guys, just not to interrupt, but you might as well give them away at the prices you guys have.
yeah.
I'm not even kidding, guys. I said, how much is it? And they're like, it's $50. I'm like, dude, it cannot be $50. And he's like, yeah, it's $50. I don't understand how it's so cheap.
Yeah. Well, look, we really are doing this. We're not doing this to make a ton of money. We really want to promote. Now is the greatest time ever to become a pilot.
Absolutely.
When we came through, it was extremely difficult 25 years ago. You were begging for a job. The jobs paid nothing. All these factors, including retirements of pilots and everything, are just blowing up the industry right now.
But that don't make sense. Like either you had to beg for a job, like, dude, you need a pilot or the plane don't go anywhere. You have to have a pilot.
Yeah. It was supply and demand back then.
Yeah,
so there just wasn't a lot of planes?
Yeah, it's in the age of the pilots. They all age out. So airline pilots have to retire at age 65.
Mandatory retirement.
So,
no shit.
So, there's a big slew of all these, ex-military guys are all starting to retire. These discount airlines, you mentioned Southwest, they're popping. Southwest, Allegiant, JetBlue, Frontier.
There's more travel.
Growing. We're constantly breaking TSA screening numbers. If you look, even after COVID, we've recovered, and there's record numbers of air travel.
So they would get into the business by going to a flight school, but what you guys show people is what to do and what flight schools to avoid and how to just get through it quick without doing anything, and you save them. In some cases, 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Well, dude, for $50, why wouldn't I want to learn that?
It's a no-brainer. This really was like something, everybody's like, you got to give back, and this is something we already knew about. And it was just over the years, somebody would, a neighbor or something, little Billy's thinking about being a pilot. You got any advice for him? And, I started jotting down some ideas and I, those questions would come in over and over. And I'm like, man, if I really thought about this, I could come up with all kinds of shit. And then it came about from there. And it's not just how to find the flight school, what flight instructor you're looking for. There's tips, tricks, hacks, and shortcuts through the entire course. It could be something as simple as when you take this written test, make sure you schedule this written test with this one, because they're secretly the same test. The FAA put the same questions on, little shit like that.
Things you wouldn't know unless you already did it.
Well, not everybody even knows that did do it, but that kind of thing. But then there's other stuff in there. We teach them how to be an effective flight instructor, how to maximize that their CFI, certificated flight instructor certificate rating.
So anybody that's either already in or thinking about becoming a pilot for any reason, whether it's to make money or get a job or just fun, thrills, it would behoove them and it would save them years just by reaching out to you guys and giving you $50 or whatever it is.
Well, and then we have an even better product that we just launched. It's more money this year that we love now, and it's a weekly coaching call. So they can pay a little more money, and then once a week they can jump on these calls and they can ask us anything. So we can talk to them about
now
the
it's
training.
a true mentorship.
It's true mentorship, and we have people on here that have literally they can't even find an airport. They're just so new, and then we have guys coming out of the military. They're trying to find jobs.
That's a good one, because a lot of guys transitioning, dude, they could be pilots. They think they had to be in the military to do it. You don't.
Yes.
What about someone at Burger King right now flipping hamburgers, listening to this podcast? Can they literally, with a little bit of investment, because it's not free to go to flight school.
Yes.
Become a pilot.
We've always said this, people have these preconceived I wear glasses, I can't be a pilot.
I don't want to join the military.
I'm an idiot. I failed out of math. I can't be a pilot. I'm fat. I can't be. Any able-bodied human being can do this today without a college
What if
degree
they're afraid?
and be making $500,000 a year, working 12 days a month, maybe those last 10 years of your career.
What if they're afraid?
Yeah, I mean, that's that one, you can get over by taking an introductory flight at your local airport and see if it's really for you, if you really like it. But
Well, I mean, it'd be fun if you're flying it, but what if you're afraid of flying?
you probably don't want to be a pilot.
Yeah, maybe.
So there's no cure. You have no hack for
Doing it. Well, I think once you actually fly the plane, sometimes that eliminates a lot of your fear, because I believe fear of flying is a control thing for a lot of people. They don't like being in the back, man, and somebody else is in control.
Dude, there's a difference. Like I was again flying with Grant and Ryan, and they wanted me to take control of the plane. I said, screw you. Like, I'll ride. I am not taking control of this thing. What if I do this when I shouldn't do that?
Yeah.
Is the plane that delicate? Like, could I get in the pilot seat and push down and cause us to crash?
Oh, absolutely.
I don't. But I don't.
Then why would he let a non-pilot into the pilot seat?
Because I think he figured you'd probably want to live too.
Well, of course, but I mean, but what I'm saying is, there any
accidentally do that? You would have to manhandle and force something
and continue to do it.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so he knew that he'd take over by then.
Yeah, plenty of time for him to fix any situation you could have.
Yeah,
we were actually steering the airplane around in cruise and stuff is not it's not difficult at all. You could do that in 5 minutes.
I didn't even want to.
Yeah,
that's what scared me though. I don't want to take control of a plane unless I know what the flaps are doing and all the shit. Yeah. Now my wife's dad is a pilot. But a little plane pilot.
Yeah.
Cool. Like he can't fly a jet.
Yeah.
But he's a pilot, and he freaking loves flying.
Yeah, it's one of the.
And I want to
fun hobby.
And I kind of want to get my license just to fly. It's planes.
It's one of the most fun things you can do.
Private pilot certificate.
Yeah, you would.
And you can do that. My kid's doing that. Well, you can start flying when you're 5 years old. You can't. Part of getting your pilot's license is soloing. So before you even have a pilot's license, your instructor is going to turn you loose in the airplane by yourself to fly around. And you got to be 16 to do that, 17 to get your license.
That's it?
Yeah.
17. Yeah. That's just the private pilot's license, like what you're talking about.
Yeah, but you can be 17 and get your own plane and go fly around.
Yep.
By yourself.
Yep.
Dude, isn't it a little bit dangerous?
Kind of. Well,
I could drive a car.
Yeah, my son, 16, just turned 16 in September here, and the state of Ohio, he couldn't get his driver's license till, actually, it was just before we left on his trip, till November 2nd or something. But yeah, at 16 years old, I got a video of it. My kid is flying an airplane by himself. My wife was freaking out. But
what's the best plane to learn to fly in?
Pipers or Cessnas.
Yeah, I liked Pipers myself, but Cessnas, it's all the singlets. You want cheap. The best one is the cheapest one. So maybe it's your neighbor who owns an airplane. He's going to let you learn to fly in it. That's
an old biplane.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Because is flight?
Yeah, pretty much at that stage, as long as it's, it's very basic. At that stage, what you're talking about, you're just trying to learn how to manipulate this machine through the air. You're not really getting into, landing in, the snowstorm. You can't even see out of the front of the windows or anything.
Have you done that?
Oh, yeah.
But isn't that all instruments?
Yeah.
Yeah, they call it instrument flying, but you're still manipulating the controls.
Is it auto land? features.
Not auto land.
Not what we do.
Yeah, that's pretty
that
rare.
exists. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you guys ever flown into St. Bart's?
Oh yeah. Well, no, not St. Bart's. We go into St. Martin. If you have a big daddy business jet, you go into St. Martin, and then your passengers, you take a small plane over there, or if they're very conservative, a boat. Because that runway is freaking crazy over there.
Well, that's the beauty.
It is crazy, but I watch planes, doing that, and I'm like, would if I were a pilot, would I have the balls to do that?
We don't recommend. I mean, nobody with a net worth over 100 million will take off, will fly in there. They'll take off out of there. It's safer, but most people take a boat over and then they fly back.
What about like just in general flight safety? Like how often do these private planes go down?
Rare. Yeah.
We just had one of those Honda jets run off the runway.
Yeah, that happened about 2 days ago. Yeah.
But again, I guarantee when we get to the end of it, it's going to be pilot error. I mean, these machines are of course, stuff always breaks, but we've figured out most of all that. The parts that always break that get people killed. We've doubled and tripled them up and made them out of different materials, or we've trained people how to install them better, or whatever. It's really, we've eliminated almost everything, but the problems, except for the human sitting up there that makes a bad decision.
My buddy was a pilot, died in his plane, which is funny too, because he keeps asking me, hey, I'll fly up and grab you and we'll go do this. I said, dude, I don't fly in airplanes that don't have stewardesses. And he kept, thinking I was joking. Well, I wasn't joking. Then one day I thought he was joking, and he said, hey, I put you in my will. I said, oh yeah? He goes, yeah, you're going to get my planes. And all I said was, yeah, well, my luck, you'll crash in them.
And he ended up
crashing them. And he just got a brand new Lance Air Evolution.
Oh yeah, that's a high performance single engine airplane. Yeah, very expensive.
So he just bought that, and he was cruising around. He wanted me to go with him to California. I said no, I got to do this other thing. Almost decided to finally fly with him because Lance Air, we're getting up there.
Oh yeah.
But it's still a little plane if you ask me.
Yeah, very little. Yeah,
but his assistant went with him. She did not want to go. She said, I'll just fly Southwest and meet you there. No, fly with me, because I wasn't going. That's the day. That's the day he crashed.
So you were invited on the trip where he actually crashed, and you turned it down.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
And dude,
man, the day the music died. Man,
yeah, but let me tell you. So after all their investigation, everything, pilot error. Well, of course it's pilot error. It's very rare that a plane falls out of the sky because of a malfunction. Now, is it possible? Yeah, but so what he did, and this is the crazy part. If you listen to the black box recording, he's coming in. They're like, "You're clear to land." He said, "Can I fly by to make sure my landing gear are down?" Because apparently the electrical shit went out. So he had no readings.
Yeah.
So he came in, and by the way, he turned around when he figured it out, and you're not supposed to turn around, they said. He was on the way to California, turned around to come back, and already had these problems. They're like, you don't turn around when you have problems like that. You just keep going and land, I guess. So he turned around, which is already a no-no, went all the way back to this Deerfield Airport or whatever in Arizona. They said, go ahead and land. He said, let me just fly by and make sure
the gear.
Make sure my landing gear are down, because I can't see. And so they said, go ahead. So he flew around. They said, yep, they're down. And when he turned, his airspeed, I guess wasn't. There was no way to see his airspeed. He stalled and crashed into the golf course.
Down so the tower could. I'm just guessing here. He was probably had it slowed down pretty good, just hanging on the prop, so they could see everything underneath the airplane, see if the gear were down and locked, and then did not, give more power to the airplane before he started turning and
stalled. Yeah.
But is that a rookie mistake?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say. Like, there's a lot of times, they're still calling stuff pilot error, things break in the airplane, but it's okay. That thing that broke, it's all right. I have system B and this standby and backup system, because this is an important thing that broke. It's all right. I got 3 more. I don't care. Follow a checklist. I keep trucking. But if you're a poor pilot or you're trained poorly,
or a new pilot,
yeah,
you don't know
really
what
easy
to
get
do.
excited and start chasing the right. I'm always saying, if you want to tell if you got a good pilot or not, this is a human being that has the ability to distinguish what's important from what's not important.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of aviation history of guys putting airplanes in the dirt because they were chasing the thing that wasn't important when the real important thing was over here on fire.
Yeah.
And they missed it. Value jet. Put an airplane into the swamps down in Florida, down in the Everglades, chasing a light bulb problem. They had a light bulb burned out.
Yeah.
Killed everybody on the airplane.
Yeah. You just can get distracted. It sounds unfortunate.
Why a light bulb though?
It was actually
that was Delta, actually. Yeah. Going into Miami in Florida. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It was a gear light.
So they put the gear down.
Same thing what you were just talking about. Actually,
yeah, the light didn't illuminate that shows that it's locked, but the bulb was burned out. They were all fixated on that. It was at night and they crashed into something. But your buddy, it sounds like,
wouldn't there be alarms and shit going off?
There's several.
This was like in the 70s.
Yeah, there's.
But
these things are
gotten better. But it sounds like your buddy, a little bit like the JFK Jr. thing. A lot of these guys get excited and they buy a faster airplane than they really should be flying at their. And I don't know his particular experience level, but that airplane could be a handful for a new pilot, but it's fast and it's like you going, instead of buying a Honda Civic right when you get your license, you buy a Ferrari, and you give it to your 16-year-old son. There could be a problem there. And then, he was under pressure, he was distracted, and then airplanes have to have a certain amount of forward airspeed to fly. You got to have flow over the wings for it to generate lift. And if you get too slow, you'll crash. So he was distracted, he was nervous, and he probably made that turn and got too slow. And then that's bad. But
that's what it was. Airspeed, pilot error.
Yeah.
And they were saying, well, you didn't have any instruments to see the thing, and then another pilot said, well, actually, if he'd have just looked up here over to the right, there's an analog backup. You can definitely, in other words, he just didn't know the plane and he didn't have the experience.
Yeah.
How do I know if I'm going to get into a pilot situation like that? Because dude, I'm a little bit afraid of flying just instinctually. Why? Well, because dude, you're 30,000 feet in the sky. If something goes wrong, you're gonna die.
Right.
That's why I think it's stupid when you guys say, "Put your fucking tray tables up" and all that lame shit. Like, dude, you already know if we crash, these tray tables ain't gonna do shit.
That's right.
Yeah, it's exactly on impact. It's the aluminum brackets all breaking loose in the airplane and everybody flying into each other. Yeah.
But if you're doing it the right way, you're learning the right way, you're taking the right advice. It's not overall that much dangerous. Now, when you have a buddy that's a private pilot, I'd make sure I know a lot more about the situation before I go flying with them. Now,
because I declined, and I declined mainly because I don't like those little ass planes. Right? Yeah. When I was at the airport with him, I squeeze the wing and I could bend it.
Yeah, that's right.
It wasn't even solid.
Yeah, it's just tin. It's aluminum.
It's recycled beer cans, man. That's what
that guy would not have had the credential. Your question about how do I know if I'm that guy wouldn't have had the credentials to get on at an airline or a charter company, or even if he handed you a resume for your new corporate jet you just bought, somebody's going to be telling you oh no, this guy's years away from being qualified here. He doesn't have the experience. Because there's one thing about what we're talking about, getting through all your certificates and ratings fast, but that's not putting any experience in your logbook, the actual flight time. That's why, that flight instructor first job, you're gaining experience. You're getting to see more things happen up there and go wrong. And, I've been in this situation before. I know how to handle, all that stuff, just like with anything.
Right. In general, though, as a passenger, if that's what you're asking, if you're getting into a turbine-powered airplane that's expensive, those guys have been through all the vetting, and you're less likely to get involved in a crash,
Generally speaking, commercial airlines, all good pilots.
Yeah,
I would say so.
Yeah, generally, the airlines really know how to train people. These are very intensive training programs they go through. People wash out if they're not prepared, and they go. You already know how to fly, and then you get hired at an airline. You'll be in a 3-month intensive training program just for that airplane. You're always flying with a more experienced guy that's watching you, and then as you gain seniority, then you'll become a captain. But there's until you really know what you're doing, you're not typically flying with a guy.
And even to get on with the crappy, no, I shouldn't say it like that. The smallest, whatever, regional jet operator, it flies little 50-seaters or something. The government has mandated stuff. So that guy he or she has to have 1,500 hours before they can get hired to be a pilot at that company. And that stuff isn't just like, that stuff is vetted pretty hard. You can't just make that up. You've already had a job typically as a flight instructor, or that's one of the things we teach people how to do is skip flight instructing. Not everybody likes teaching. Not everybody likes that. So we teach people how to talk your way into a jet, right seat, co-pilot position, doing what we do in the corporate jet. Yeah, corporate world.
So how to land a job like that?
Yeah,
even if it's, hey, let me work for free for you.
That's one of the things we do.
What about private tipping?
Oh, it happens.
It happens all the time.
Well, I know it happens. I tip, but like my guy's plane, I go to tip. He's like,
yeah,
you're making me look bad.
Right.
It's
like somebody charter, you would tip, or you could tip. If you're on a guy's, it is a little, I don't want to say it's insulting, but if Lightspeed buys an airplane and you have your two guys and we just fly you and your wife around, and then you're bringing your friends on board, and then they're going to tip your pilots. Right. It's like,
that makes me feel like, I don't think, he would want me taking that.
You guys
thank you so much. But
what's appropriate?
This
is an amount.
Yeah. 20 years ago, we had a guy, I've had several really good customers, but when we used to fly charter for a major charter company, we had a guy that invented a very, very famous medical device. I won't give it away, but he was an older guy, and he had a house in Maui, and we would pick him up and take him there. And we had two pilots and a flight attendant, and everybody got $500 when they were landed, So you would get that $100.
Hundo's pretty typical. Yeah. Just $100 bill. I've had guys actually landed here in Vegas, hand me $1,000 and go have fun. Don't.
Well, are they the owners?
That was Charter World. That was somebody chartering.
Because some people like me, I don't know. So what I always think it depends on how long it is.
I've noticed nobody knows because it's
well, nobody knows, but I'm always like between $300 and $500 for the pilots, because I'm thinking they got to split it, and then the stewardess, like, I feel bad for her, like. She did most of the work. All they did is sat up there and flew. Yeah. So I'm like, dude, who do I tip? And so I'm like, I give her 100 or 2, and then I give them 3 or 4 so they can split it.
Sure.
Do they all split it?
Yeah,
by the way?
Typically, yeah. If one guy, I've seen that before. Somebody just hands the captain the money. Make sure you take care of the rest of your guys. Whatever.
Yeah.
What if is there any captains that?
I flew with some that,
when we were younger. Yeah.
Did he give you a tip too? Like, no. Then I'll split what he gave me or whatever, and turns out he did give him a tip too. I've flown with those kind of guys.
Well, just because it's not a lot of money, I always say here's some beer money, so they know that I'm not like trying to. Here you go, young man. Here's a quarter.
I like that. Here's some beer money.
Yeah. That's great, man.
Yeah, because it's not a lot. But again, dude, you got me there safely. Shit, dude, that's worth every penny. Because if I knew like it was up to them, I'd have paid them $30,000 to land that safely.
No, that's great. But the cool thing, Brad, though, is that the real tip or the perk of the job isn't the tips. It's we're where you're at. So you just, usually if you're taking a private jet, you're going somewhere nice, like St. Martin, right? You're going over to St. Martin. Well, we hang out for 3 days on the beach, 4 days on the beach while you're over there.
Just waiting for me.
Oh yeah, man, hanging out, ready to go, man. So we're going.
Might have flown my wife down there to hang out.
Yeah,
she wasn't invited to come on the jet.
We go to all the islands at all the best times. We go to the mountains, ski season. We go, to Aspen in the summer, and we're hiking around, and we're living a sliver of your life without developing this beautiful company like you have, man. And we're getting what we're seeing with our coaching is we're getting a lot of second career guys that we call them career 2.0 guys. These are guys that made it in another industry. Maybe they sold their business and they got a couple mil. It's not enough that they'll never work again, but now they want to do something fun. So they come to us and they say, hey, I want to get into flying, Yep. So this is what I always wanted to do. And it's not really like work if you really love it, Well,
that's why I was thinking about getting my license. It's not so I can go to work. It's so I can fucking fly.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And not only that, like, dude, if I were single, dude, a pilot gets laid when they start talking like a pilot talks. And it sounds cool as shit. Like, I just want to learn the language.
There's an old joke. What's a pilot say halfway through his first date? Enough about airplanes. Let's talk about me.
Yeah.
Or the other one is,
How do you know when you got a pilot at a party you're at?
he'll tell you. Yeah, no, it's a fun conversational, and I think they talk about that with Grant Cardone and his pilot. Grant, I've heard
That's
him
why
say,
Ryan is where he is. That same type of thing.
When they realized that he flew the plane there, to look at these apartment buildings, it's like, oh my God, it's like instant credibility, So people think you're cool when you do it. Yeah,
Yeah, well, you could find yourself a partner in life with that career path.
Yeah.
I'm just telling the listeners, like, if you're single and you want to get, ladies, I guarantee you, become a pilot, you will get the ladies. And I think it's the language.
The Top Gun movies didn't hurt either, man. 1986, that thing came out. That was a record year for pilot training.
Do they make you learn the Alpha Bravo Charlie?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. That's like one of the first things. Yeah. A private pilot, you would have to learn it too.
What's G? Garage?
Golf.
Golf.
GULF, like the Gulf of Mexico.
And T is Tango.
Yeah.
And if you buy a plane, you get your own tail number if you want.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Unless
you
it's
can custom-
taken.
Yep, that's correct.
But
BL, man, Bravo Lima for Brad Lea, and then we might get your birth date maybe for the numbers.
Well, I would want Romeo. So an R has to be in there because Romeo.
Yeah. The only
Alpha
problem is you
Romeo.
can't start with it. You can't have it. There's a couple rules on how it has to.
Has
be
to start with
started.
N, right?
Yeah,
Well,
for
that's
the US,
that N is North America. Basically, well, that's not.
It's
That's
US,
not right.
yeah.
It's just a U.S.
So if you're taking off, you got to touch base with the tower.
Yep.
What's the standard protocol? And like, there's a method. Because like, there's a girl that was on the podcast. She's like, number one, pretty as hell. Her name's Kinsey.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone will look her up, but she's a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's getting her helicopter license too. But like, she's just an amazing, I don't want to sound chauvinistic, but female specifically, because she like skydives and does all this crazy shit like you usually don't see girls doing. But she's got a pilot and she's got a little pink cool looking plane and she's loving to fly and she's like making me want to go get my license.
Yeah.
But like when she's taken off, she's like, it just sounds so Alpha Bravo Charlie, ring 1 requesting runway on take 5. Then you can hear the tower take 5, go ahead, runway Charlie 5 Lima 0 Alpha
You're
Bravo
like,
Charlie.
holy shit, she knows what she's doing.
She does. And it's like, dude, it's kind of like, dang, that's cool. How do you learn that without having to go to school?
You know what? It's the same.
I just want to learn how to talk like
there's
one.
a website called Live ATC.
Yeah.
Air Traffic Control is what it stands for, and you can listen to all. You can put in John F. Kennedy International Tower.
But you got to know what it means.
It's not as complex as you may think it is. We use a very limited amount of phrases on the radio. We say them all day long, every day. It's the same thing over and over again. There's only so many words that get said back and forth in those conversations. And the letter thing, it's just that probably takes some time in the very
that's
beginning.
just the military
Alpha
alphabet.
Bravo Charlie Delta Echo. Yeah, the
Because when
alphabet.
I was flying back and I got in the captain's seat, and then I was on the headphones, and Ryan said, "Hey, say," he wanted me to talk to, I think it was, we were cruising over, let's say Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was supposed to say something, if I can remember correctly, like, Dallas Tower, this is 365, Gulf Charlie, 34,000 feet.
Yeah.
Or something like
That's
that.
it, man.
And then they'd go,
Yep.
Gulf Charlie, 34,000 feet, maintained. And I'd be like, copy. And then he goes, good. I'm like, that one's easy, but taking off, it sounds the coolest. What are you saying?
There's a lot of, you're talking to the ground controller just to taxi, drive the airplane out to the runway.
So what are you saying?
And you switch over to tower. Well, you'd pull up to the runway and wherever you're at.
Miami Tower. Yeah. 365 GC. You're clear for takeoff. Runway 36 left, fly heading 280 or maintain 3,000 feet.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have to read back exactly what they say to you. And I was just going to mention that whole phonetic alphabet. The reason why we use that, and cops use their own, they don't use the military's phonetic alphabet. They have like A for them is Apple, where we use Alpha. But it's because when you start talking on a radio all day long, when you say B or G or D, those things all start sounding the same over a little microphone and, scratchy headphones. And so they came up with this.
Okay, what about flat earthers?
Flat Earth? You into that?
Well, if you ever been in a Learjet at 49,000 feet. 51,000 feet, and you could see the curvature of the Earth, you would say those guys are smoking crack.
Yeah, well, and didn't what is it, Archimedes or what? Like in the 1400s, you can figure this out pretty easy. You dig one hole, and then you walk 100 yards that way. You dig another hole. You put a stick in here. You can just look at the sun and shadows. It's not that difficult to tell the Earth is a ball.
Well, you always see pilots. They're like, ask a pilot. So I'm like, hey. I don't think it's flat.
Yeah. These high performance business jets fly so high, you can kind of see, the curvature when you're up there.
Yeah, people say that, but I don't know if it's just a defect. I agree that there is something going on there. There is a little bit, if you let your eyes relax, open up the peripherals a little bit. When you're cruising at 51,000 feet.
Is that the highest you can cruise?
Not every aircraft.
When do you fuck off into space if you go too far?
100,000 is when they say you're an astronaut.
Right? I haven't found it yet, but there is something out.
Yeah.
So there's no plane getting up that high.
You got to have a pressure suit. I think somewhere around 70, your blood will want to turn back into a gas because there's no atmosphere. Your blood will boil. So some of these guys like the Blackbird and the U-2, they're up in the upper 70,000 foot. I mean, that's pretty much space. You got to have a pressure suit on like an astronaut wears. Otherwise, you'll die.
One of the other things you can see up there is the daylight termination line. So, like on our flight yesterday, we came out of Miami and we came into Vegas, and you're taking off at sunset. But with the time change, because the Earth rotates at about 1,000 miles an hour, but then your plane's flying at, 500, let's say, you can slowly see it getting dark, and you can kind of see how it's kind of curved like the Earth, and it's kind of the darkness is kind of overtaking you. And that's all because the Earth is round.
What about turbulence? Is there any reason to be afraid?
I mean, there's some stuff that, it can kill you.
Yeah.
Destroy the aircraft. I mean, thunderstorms. You're talking about extreme.
Well, then how do they fly into hurricanes?
Well, they don't fly directly through the worst part.
Yeah.
Number one. So there's always a band or spaces you can get around. Two, those are military aircraft or ex-military, whatever. It's not a passenger airliner.
Right.
And three, once you're in the eye of the hurricane, it's
good.
It's normal flying. And that's, I think, what a lot of they get in that eye. Now you got this vertical wall of storm all around you in a circle, and they're shooting their sensors and whatever in there. I'm not an expert on that.
Yeah.
Just regular old commercial flying turbulence, because when it gets bumpy and you're like, you see people getting really scared, and I always was told by pilots, there's nothing to be afraid of.
No, it's not
the
bad.
little stuff.
You'll get it's real common, especially here in Vegas. It gets super hot, and when you get down closer to the ground, they call it convective turbulence. There's all different kinds, but it's basically the sun heating the ground, and it's causing pockets of rising air. That's what you get a lot. Now, thunderstorms will create really bad turbulence, and you don't want to fly directly in them. Nobody does. I mean, that could really cause problems. And then
but it could cause problems.
You could destroy the airplane to the point where it's not able to be flown anymore, and you're coming down. You could have a passenger who didn't have a seatbelt on, and now you're hitting your head.
Dude, I was on a plane one time where
the guy from what is it, the ShamWow or as seen on TV guy, that happened to him. Hit his head in a private jet, and he died.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Well, I was coming back on a commercial plane, and you could see who wasn't seatbelted because it felt like it felt like the plane. First of all, it was white knuckle bumping, and it wasn't fun at all. And I was even like scared.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you could feel like, dude, it was like bad. And then out of the blue, it would feel like you dropped 1,000 feet in a split second.
Yep.
And so we were flying along, and it was bad like that, and it kept going, whoa, and I'm like, oh my God, like I don't like this at all. Nothing could be. Things were falling, and then all of a sudden, it went. It felt like we hit something. It went. It made a loud noise and everything. Boom! And as soon as it said boom, it felt like the plane dropped out from underneath you, and you only saw like whoever wasn't seatbelted is who you saw, and they went bam and hit their heads on the fucking thing.
That's bad.
And carts and shit were flying, and people were crying, and people were praying. Yeah. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like the pilot told me, nothing to be afraid of. And so I just sat there white knuckling it, dude. And I thought, I'm never flying again after this. Yeah. Was I in any danger?
The planes can take a lot of abuse. Yeah.
Yeah. You ever seen those pictures when Boeing's, in the factory when they're testing
bending the wings?
Yeah, the wing flex. They can take those wings on, I think it was maybe a Boeing 7.5 or 7.6, and they got these straps or cables, whatever. They twist the wings all the way around the fuselage to the point where the tips almost touch before the wing shatters and breaks. So I mean, they can flex like a damn bird, flapping its wings to fly.
So you guys have zero fear flying a plane that you feel is in perfect working order.
Yeah, I don't.
You're not worried about a tail not moving or a flap.
I'm more worried about the drive to the airport. The drive to the airport is hundreds of thousands of times more dangerous.
Then how do you explain all these airline crashes?
Well, the takeoff and landing is the most difficult part. If you get into really high surface winds, that's when you got to be really careful. Particularly the mountain flying, and for the rich guys watching, a lot of these guys go into these really tight mountain airports. A lot of times not during great times of the day. You start flying into Aspen at 5 p.m. in the summer when you get all that heating from the mountains and high winds, and that can really,
because it throws you into the ground.
Oh yeah, and you got to put this thing on the ground, and if you have to go around, it's very tight. There's lots of mountains
box
around.
Canyon. You can't. Aspen's a really unique airport. We call it a special airport.
Yeah, and then the high elevation causes the airplane to not perform as well. So you're not getting the performance when you go go around, and you got to look at these climb gradients and all these charts and everything. So that stuff can get pretty hairy. When you're just en route and you're getting turbulence, that's just more of an uncomfortability thing, But when you get close to the ground and you're getting, what they call wind shear or some of this heavy turbulence, it can be very challenging sometimes,
So if you're up in the air cruising and it's bumpy, don't worry about it. If you're near the ground and it's bumpy,
you might think about it could be a problem.
Yeah. That's another scary thing. We are landing in Denver one year, and it felt like we landed so hard the pilot thought we were 100 below where we were, because you came down and it just felt like a normal landing, and then all of a sudden, we slammed.
They get some real wind shear, difficult wind shear stuff going on in Denver. Wind shear is an abrupt change in wind speed or direction, and it can be instantaneous. Yeah. And when that happens low to the ground, an airplane flies because that wind is going over those wings. You think about sticking your hand out the car window going 60, 70 miles an hour, that air starts to feel like a fluid.
Yeah.
And that's what makes an airplane fly. So if you have a wind coming down the runway, we want the wind going over the wings, and you thunderstorm in the area or whatever, you have one of these wind shear events happen where now the airplane has wind going over the wings at 120 miles an hour, but the wind changes, and now the wind's only going over the wings at 90 miles an hour. That airplane's going to hit the ground hard.
Yeah, I got a buddy that flies a Falcon for this company out of Denver Centennial, and they do a lot of day trips. They'll take executives somewhere, and then they'll come back at like 5 o'clock, and that's when you get that peak heating and the wind picks up and stuff. He said they get some, real bad turbulence. He jokes and says sometimes they'll break the china in the back of the airplane.
Right. That just happened to us landing at Telluride in the Hawker.
Yeah.
The china cabinet came open, the shit everywhere, but that's not a big deal when you're at altitude cruising. But when you're low and slow trying to put this machine on the ground, those kind of wind change, you
better know what you're doing.
Yeah, you gotta. We have techniques to
bigger the better.
As far as aircraft
or turbulence.
It seems like there's less turbulence the bigger the jet you're on. Like I'm going to Dubai,
there is
and I'll be on
that.
Emirates bad boy. Those big ass things. You can't even feel you're flying half the time.
There is something to it, and how heavy it is too. I mean, if you just took off and you're full of fuel, the turbulence feels completely different than when you're coming in land and everything's empty.
Yeah.
There is something to how big the aircraft is and how much it weighs. Absolutely.
I know we're out of time, but it seems like I just got all my questions answered. If I was the audience listening, I'd be like, dude, you should have picked out the jet. Like, which better, Challenger?
Yeah.
You know, the Bombardier. What's it called? The Praetor.
Yeah, Embraer.
Embraer. What's the best one to buy?
Well, I mean, Gulfstreams are the most expensive. They're made in America. A lot of people love them. You know,
that's just a brand, though, right?
It's just a brand.
The what would you buy?
Well, I'm a kind of a Challenger guy. They're made actually by Bombardier, and they're
Challenger 604 would be fine with me.
604 is an older version. I flew that thing all over the world.
What's the new version of the 604?
Challenger 300, 350 series, which is a little more modern version.
But that's a 604 basically, size-wise.
Yeah, 604 size-wise. And then they have the Global, which is the Mac Daddy.
No, the Global. That's what Ed got.
Yeah. That's a badass.
I ain't getting a Global. I just want it for me and maybe 10 people at the most.
Yeah. A Challenger 300 or 350 you could go to Hawaii, and that you can do transcontinental flights, New York, LA.
Is that the best cost effectively?
Yes, for your buck. And
so
that's
a Challenger.
It's one of the most popular business jets ever produced. The production numbers are
and
crazy.
It looks good.
It's good looking plane. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So the Challenger, and then that's for the Richies.
Yep.
Listening, not Sean Richey. Richie Rich. And now the
Sean Richey yet.
And now the people that are thinking, hey, dude, I might be a pilot. Like, what do? Just go to ProPilot Playbook?
Yeah, go to ProPilotPlaybook.com. Check out our all our stuff there, and then you can start by, if you don't want to spend any money, just go right to our YouTube channel.
Dude, it's $50. I'm sure money's not going to be the issue.
Yeah, we're on 17, 18 different platforms with the podcast. I mean,
so for free, you go to the YouTube.
Yep,
sure,
and that's ProPilot
Playbook
at YouTube.
And we got over 170 videos there, all different aviation topics. We have guests on there, but all related to a career in aviation.
Yeah, aviation.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But we love it, man. We love the job. It's been just an incredible journey. The free time that we get to work on other things and to help people, the places that we've seen, we're making great money. It's just a wonderful career. And we really want to spread the word that anyone can do it if they really want to. It's easier and less money than what a lot of people think, and
they need a lot of pilots right now.
There is never been a better time to become a pilot since the Wright brothers first flew than right now. And here's the other cool thing is it's way easier to be a pilot now with the technology and the moving maps. You're just staring at a bunch of TV screens. When Mike and I learned how to fly, it was a bunch of round gauges with needles that would stick everywhere. And you beat on everywhere. It's so easy now.
Had this thing open like a freaking newspaper in the cockpit trying to figure out where the hell we're at.
Paper charts. Now it's just a moving map. It's like it's like pulling up
Google Maps on your phone.
Exactly.
What's the best charter company that you know of?
Ooh, yeah, we don't want to get in trouble with that. The biggest one, is NetJets. That's owned by Warren Buffett. That's a very great place. It's a great job to work. FlexJet's also another good one. That's another big one. Wheels Up.
The reason I I didn't like Wheels Up.
Oh, yeah.
No, because they charged me way more than everybody else would.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it's like, were they just trying to jack me or something?
Well, if you're looking for, so the big companies are all the most expensive. If you're looking for the most economical way to do it, find a local operator in Vegas that charters where you live, and then rent from them. Because when you're buying one ways from those big companies because they're using that plane.
Doesn't base their planes here. They brought that plane in from somebody.
And they fly you to Nashville. Then those guys leave the second you land, and they reposition to New York, take somebody to LA. If you find so you pay more for that because it's a one-way, and then they just come get you whenever you're ready to go. If you can find, like, say you and the wife want to go to Nashville for the weekend, if you can find a plane in Vegas that crew takes you there and then they take you back and there's no deadheading involved, you're going to pay way less money.
This is going to be like, I'm kind of downplaying it, but it could be Bill's charter service over at the Henderson Airport. This isn't one of the big brand names.
Yeah.
And you're it could be a game changer for you. Because
Well, dude, I'm going to get you guys a cell. I'm going to give you my cell so I can help you with the personal branding.
Yes, sir.
You guys can text and we can chit chat.
Yes.
And then if I ever have any pilot questions, I'm just calling y'all.
Heck yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Keep us on your speed dial, my man.
I used to call old Captain Ryan, but old Captain Ryan got too big and
he's big. Yeah.
He's a billionaire now.
He side buttons you now.
Yeah. Now I'm like, hey, Captain Ryan. He's like,
Brad, who?
Captain Ryan? What happened? Used to be cool enough. Dude, are you guys, because you guys are also entrepreneurs. We didn't even get to talk about that, but you got businesses.
Yep.
Well, that's just a byproduct of being a pilot. We're not the only pilots that
At what point are you guys done being a pilot?
You mean in our careers?
Yeah.
I will never stop flying airplanes. It's too damn easy and
Like
fun.
if you're making
I
$1
will
million
never
a
stop.
month and you don't need to pilot anybody at any time ever again, would you still fly people?
It's that fun. It would be a hard career to walk away from. But you know, if we were.
It's like, you know, because I go on, like when I go to work, I don't, in my head, it's not like I'm going to work. I'm going to Napa for a week, man. You know,
and those got to be fun to fly.
It is, yeah. You're flying.
Could you barrel roll if you wanted to?
Oh, yeah, if you wanted to. You want to clean up the toilet in the back. You want to pick up all the wine and broken
update
glass.
your resume.
Yeah,
Could you turn it upside down and fly that way?
It's an airplane. Yeah, I mean they
you
all
might have some fuel system problems.
I mean,
It's not meant to do that.
No, it's not, man. It'll fly like that for a little bit, though, for sure.
You could try anything once, Brad.
Yeah, you could build a fire in a life raft once.
What I always do is like, because I watched this, you know, craziest plane crash show one time, which I never should have watched, and the plane took off and it was turning right, and for some reason it wouldn't turn, it wouldn't level out, so it went. Yeah. And I'm like, now every time we take off and we start to turn, I'm like, come on. I'm like pushing it this way to lean back, you know, but what causes that?
That's what we call an accelerated stall. For lack of better, I mean, the simplest terms is the airplane didn't have the energy or power to be climbing and turning at the same time. You know, you got to keep that arrow. Pilot error. You got to keep that arrow over the wings.
Similar situation to your buddy, unfortunately.
Have you guys ever had any near misses?
I mean, there's equipment in the airplane now, TCAS they call it, and everybody's talking, plus the controllers are talking, so that's extremely rare.
Yeah, but you see on the news, you know, air traffic control says we had some near misses in Newark, LaGuardia.
Yeah.
Well, what they call a near... somebody had to stop short of a direction they were given by a controller. Basically what's happened there is the controller told two airplanes to taxi in. One of the pilots saw it, stopped the airplane, made the call on the radio. I'm like, hey, you know, you got American tech. Now it's a big deal because somebody screwed up. We got a problem with the system. How's this even able to... It happened.
So it wasn't that big of a deal. It's not like two planes went like this.
Yeah,
but it has happened.
It happens.
What about UFOs?
I haven't seen any. Have you, Sean?
Have you?
I've seen stuff that I don't actually two times, and it wasn't just me. I had the other pilot involved. We called the controller on the radio. You know, hey, do you see any of this? And then other pilots are chiming in. Everybody saw it. Nobody knows what the hell it is. For all I know, it was something NASA was doing that, you know, ended up in low orbit.
Well, dude, you know the government has acknowledged UFOs.
Oh, I know. It's what, you know, Rogan was talking about.
Yeah,
you know,
when they don't deny it anymore. They've released files. Yes, there are fucking flying objects. We don't know how they're doing what they're doing, but they exist.
Yeah, it's crazy the times we're living in, but it's still being downplayed. They're doing it in a unique way. It's not like the president walked up to a podium and just makes this announcement. They'll drop like a little snippet of an article in this newspaper over here, and then somebody will be like,
they don't want to cause mass hysteria.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, it is kind of weird that no one cares that you just said it should be actually are aliens.
Front page of every newspaper. It's all the, you know, networks would be talking about. Like, why isn't that happening? Like, they did do that. It's just nobody's talking about it.
And pilots, you would think, you know, you're up in the skies a lot.
Yeah.
So it's almost like if I see something, I want to fucking get a video of it.
Yeah, it is a thing. I mean, even those television programs you're talking about, there's a lot of pilots over the years that bring it up. But in the back of the regs, there is a phone number for us. It's not a government agency, but it's the government agency that, what is it? I forget. I'm going to mess it up. But in the back of the Federal Aviation Regulations book, there is the phone number for pilots to fly if they see something that's unidentified.
A lot of times I think it's weird military stuff too, you know, and they, I've seen weather balloons and things like that, but who knows, especially out here in the desert, man, holy cow, who knows what they're doing out here.
Well, fellas, I appreciate you coming in. I might have you back on another episode because I had a whole bunch more I want to talk to you about, but we're out of time. Folks, obviously, if you want to be a freaking pilot in any way, shape, or form, hit them up first. Save yourself years and tons of dough. Go in the traditional route. If you want an airplane or you want some advice in the aviation space, call these guys. Hit them on their social media at ProPilot Playbook, YouTube at ProPilot Playbook, Facebook ProPilot.Playbook. But basically, Google them, fool. You'll find them. Folks, Mike, Martin, and Sean Richey, appreciate you guys coming in.
Thanks for having us, man.
And folks, as always, till next time, keep it real.